everyone, and thanks for tuning in. You're listening to the WBTVN Expert Spotlight Show, where we highlight some of the world's most successful women. And today we are really excited about our guest. Let me just tell you a little bit about her. Tara Antler is a world-renowned intuitive healer and a soul coach. Help me welcome her to the show. Hi, Tara. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. Thanks. How are you?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, so great. So tell me just a little bit about yourself in general.
Yeah, in general, I've been doing this work for as long as I can remember. Ever since I was a little girl, I always had this ability to tune into people and see energy and just kind of know what to do, what to say, maybe even a smile, just to shift people. And so I'm really grateful that it's been my life's work for the last, 15 years. And I absolutely love it. And now we have a new little baby. She's 5.5 months old.
I heard that, and I was definitely going to ask you about it. So being a mom is a whole different thing.
A whole other ballgame.
24/7, right?
100%. And the last couple nights, I'd say actually the last couple weeks, she hasn't been sleeping her normal. Like we got used to her sleeping 8 to 10 hours a night for about 2 months. And then the last couple weeks, she has been up every 2 to 3 hours. So my husband and I, we've been walking around and we're like, oh my gosh.
No, yeah, I mean, it's just like, can I just even get like 3 hours? Yeah. When nobody disturbs me. It doesn't.
Exactly.
And some babies are better than other babies where that concerns, but they all get to be, better as time goes on.
And she's
I
an
think
awesome
as a new mom, we're kind of like, you're always like kind of finding your way, and believe me, they know it.
Yeah, 100%. And she's a really good baby. She's a really easy baby. She's a joyful baby to be around. She actually came out of the womb eyes wide open. No upset, nothing, like just complete goodness. It was
great. Okay. So what's her name?
I think she dropped. Oh, you still have it?
Yeah. What's the baby's name?
Oh, what's the baby's name? Her name's Arya Sky.
Oh, Arya Sky. Now, where did you come up with that one? I love it.
Oh my gosh. You know what? It was given to us because my husband and I, we kind of felt that she was coming in about 2 years ago. We had that, that intuitive feeling.
Yeah.
And when I was pregnant, my husband woke up one morning and he's like, I had a dream about this little girl and she was running. She was about 4 years old. These, ringlets. He's from Trinidad. So she's such a beautiful blend. And she looked at him and she said, my name is Arya. And he was like, okay, this is great. So we woke up and we started talking about it. And then a couple weeks went by and I'm like, I'm feeling like there needs to be something else to it. Like it feels a little incomplete. So I went into sleep again and I said, I was talking to her and I said, if there's another name that you want us to bring in, let me know. And I went to sleep that night and I woke up and I was like, what about Arya Sky? And we were both like, that's it. Like that's it.
Oh my goodness. I have to share with you, my daughter had 2 names for her daughter, who is Viviana. And she kind of like did the same thing. She had the 2 names. So she kind of went to bed and just, hugged her belly and whatever and said, through the night, just tell me which one you want to be. She just woke up and it was like that.
Isn't it amazing?
Amazing. Yeah.
I know. They're communicating all the time.
Absolutely. So as being an intuitive, when did this actually, I've got a lot of intuitives in my life and in my family. And it's really kind of almost eerie, but in a positive way, because I'm so used to it now that it's kind of like if somebody tells me something, I just accept it.
Yes.
It's like I'm just totally embracing it. So when did you feel like you were intuitive?
It really came to me when I was 14. I had this English teacher and he introduced me to yoga and meditation, which was phenomenal. And, this was like, I'm 38 now. So back then, down in California, yoga and meditation was a normal thing. But in Ontario, Canada, this was unheard of, like it wasn't a normal thing at all.
Exactly.
And so I think discovering yoga and meditation at such a young age, I remember sitting there on this huge rock overlooking the Ottawa River where there's like a town of 50 people. And I remember sitting there and all of a sudden it just clicked where I was like, this is it, tuning into my intuition, having an understanding as to what energy was, understanding what I feel, what I sense, everything just came into alignment. So I'd say that was probably the first time that I had a context for what was going on.
Oh, wow. And then was it scary to you, or was it like, okay, this feels good? Because it can be scary, right?
Yeah. What freaked me out was how perfectly in tune my intuition was. So, I was seeing people who had passed away. That freaked me out because at first I was like, I don't know what is going on. I don't know what I don't understand. I don't have anybody to talk to about this stuff. And so that freaked me out. And then the other thing I think that really blew my mind when it came to my intuition was I had been dating a guy for 3 years, and my family went away. We always go away for Easter. And while we went away, I had the worst feeling. I was like, I don't know. I have this feeling he's going to go to this party and he's going to be with this girl and something's going to happen. My sister was like, you know what, Tara, you're totally paranoid. Nothing's going to happen. That night I had a dream about the whole thing, like action by action, word by word. And I felt terrible all weekend. And of course we get back home and it all unfolds. And sure enough, exactly like moment by moment, word by word, action by everything was spot on. And that freaked me out because I was like, okay, what's going on here? Is this going to, and now it's okay. I think it's so normal for me to have that. And I work with clients that way all the time. So now that, whoa, it's not so much there anymore. It's like, okay, this is just the day to day,
Right. It's funny because sometimes when I was reading a little bit, about you and learned about, some of the things that you do and in the intuitiveness, I thought, oh my goodness, I better be on my best behavior. So
you know what though?
Feel free to give me any messages that come your way because we're all on this earth to either receive messages or to give messages. So I'm all about that. So tell me, as a young kid growing up, what was your passion? I mean, what did you want to do?
I always wanted to help people. I was always inspired to be with people. I loved animals. I loved nature. Even as a child, I preferred hanging out with the adults than the children. Like I actually look at kids and be like, they just don't get it. Like they just were at a whole other level. And I like to play, but it was, I don't know, there was something different. I always wanted to be with the adults because I was able to see something different. And kids, I think, are amazing. I mean, I love our daughter and I love being around children. But back then, I don't know, there was something different. And ever since I was really young, I knew I was going to help people on some level, whether it was massage therapy or physiotherapy or something,
So when you talk about healing, healing, because we all need healed. We all, even those who heal, need to have healing. And that's something I think that is, people think that the person who's the healer out there doesn't need any healing, but it's not true. They're human beings, and they, many times they give so much, of themselves that they need to be reminded sometimes of the advice that they give to others, because it's kind of like the shoemaker's daughter that doesn't have any shoes because it's making shoes for everybody else. And sometimes we forget that, the people that are around us that we care about, that we love, and that doesn't go away, but our focus sometimes is so much on giving to other people that we forget the naturalness that we should be feeling for giving to the people that are around us.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. And I think that every session that I enter into, I've come to understand it, that whatever insights come for that person, that they're also for me. My clients always reflect what I have either just gone through or what I'm in the midst of going through. Right. And so, and sometimes I'm like, oh my God, there's all this stuff going on. And then the minute I get into session, it's just all this clarity starts pouring through. And as the words pass over my lips, I literally am like, wow, this is exactly what I needed to hear for myself. So I think for me anyways, as a healer, I've been able to clean out and shift a lot of stuff very fast by working with clients.
I think that sometimes too, because I've done a lot of coaching and all of that kind of stuff, I don't know if it's so much of a coaching as I just kind of feel like being a friend and telling them the truth sometimes, because not everybody stands up to the task to do that. Yeah. And I think that sometimes if we don't know what the truth is and everybody's just trying to kind of like, keep it safe,
I know.
We really don't learn much about ourselves, and we can't make the changes that are necessary that are going to really impact our lives. And more importantly, just really help those people that are intuitive or do want to help other people, it actually helps them to be better at what they're doing when they find out stuff about themselves that they need to, make some changes in or baby steps in to get to their journey. It's their journey, and how do they help themselves? Because I think some of the best people that really do the best job is those people that just come from the heart, say it like it is, don't sugarcoat it, don't like sugarcoating at all. I'm not saying about not being kind or not being, tactful in the way that you come across on some of these things. But I just really think that somehow you just got to get it out. Right now, as I'm sitting here, it's just flooding through my head how many different people I've sat and, told things to. And I just want to share this quickly, I'm sure that you're going to be able to relate to this. I was counseling someone that had actually been abused by her stepfather. Mm-hmm. And but she said, it was years ago, and I'm over it. And I'm just sitting there going, mm-hmm. And I know better. And, finally, there's a nice way to say it, but I actually ended up getting her to write a letter because she had approached her mom, and her mom, when she told her what had gone on, her mother told her that was the worst lie that anybody could ever do. This poor girl was abandoned from her, had no place, to go. And so she says, no, I've gone through the forgiveness part of it, and whatever. And then what happened was that she had a younger sister with 2 children that she found out was going over to the house and staying with the stepfather. Yeah. And she knew now that she had to take the role of her mom. Yeah. And I said, she said, I just knew that she wasn't over it. I knew that there was something else challenging in her life. She ended up writing it. They had, they brought it out in the open, and they healed from it, which is, amazing thing that can really happen. But sometimes somebody it's not just the victim, it's the person who is, the aggressor. And sometimes that person is looking to have somebody help them to change it too. So it works in all different ways. So tell me about an experience in your life working with one of your clients that kind of maybe not only helped them, but helped you, or, gave you some, insight to what's really going on with people generally in this world as far as needing to hear the truth and to really know what, they should do about it.
Yeah, there's so many. I think I'll use one that's very recent because it's fresh in my mind. I think what's happening with a lot of people right now is there's a lot of fear around cancer right now that's happening, and that's coming in all different shapes and forms, whether it's someone's father or mother or sister that's been diagnosed, or maybe it's themselves that are being diagnosed. And so there's a lot of that coming into my field and also my husband's field, because we both do very similar work. And so we've been doing a lot of healing circles just to hold the space for people to shift whatever it is that they need, in that moment, whether it's moving through fear. A lot of people are facing mortality, what life is going to look like, what decisions to make. Do they go the chemo route? Do they go the natural route? And there's just so much fear around that word right now. And so even for myself, like every time a client comes in, I can almost feel something in the pit of my own stomach that's got this like fear, And I think because it's so rampant and we hear about it, we see it everywhere right now. Like my husband was at the gym the other day, and he said within 5 minutes, there were about 15 ads all talking about cancer and different things of that nature. He's like, gosh, it's just being pumped into the collective consciousness so thick right now. So I think that we're being called to help people move through the fear and maybe change the dialogue a little bit about cancer. And the other night we did a call, and I said, well, what if we created a new acronym for it? Or maybe we reverse the words and call it RECNAC or something, It's like, it doesn't have to be this heavy thing that sits so deep within us, because I know that when we enter into fear, it creates all sorts of things, anxiety and stress, and, it just goes on and on and on. And then that energy ends up manifesting something in our world, whether it's a minor ailment or imbalance or something that's really major, where people end up manifesting their worst fear. Right. And so I think that that's been a really big one that I've been noticing lately. And then we also had an example. We ran a retreat in Northern Ontario. It was about a month and a half ago. And we had one individual come to the retreat who had a lot of stuff that she was dealing with. Sexual abuse was one of them. And I've had that from my past that I had to heal as well. And a couple other people on the retreat had that as well. So it came up as a general theme, you know, and it was helping people walk through it so that they can heal and they can forgive, and that it doesn't have to take their whole life, you know, because yes, there's things to heal and things to shift from, but I've come to understand now that it doesn't need to take 10 years, my whole life to shift these things. It really comes down to saying, okay, am I willing to look at it? Am I willing to face it and not hide from it anymore? And am I willing to shift it and be done with it, and to create the space around it so that forgiveness can actually come in? And so I think those are really big themes that are coming right now, you know, it's a lot of stuff's being triggered for people.
Yeah, it really is. And I think that the fear factor that you talked about, and especially around, you know, any kinds of disease, and especially cancer, is extremely fearful, because they're like, okay, my health is really good right now, but what if? And we kind of like, you know, put that in our heads, where we really need to say, no, you know, I'm doing all the right things, or most of the right things. And, you know, that's, you've got to be positive about it.
100%.
You know, the other thing is that I think that people misunderstand what forgiveness is. We all often talk about that. Yeah. I brought it up in the story that I told, but forgiveness doesn't mean that you condone what somebody did.
Oh, not at all.
That's what they don't understand. So, oh, the forgiveness, now we're going to be best friends again, or this is going to, you know, that's not what it's about. It's about allowing yourself to move forward without regret. Mm-hmm. And that's what forgiveness is it's really about putting it in perspective and saying, you know, I don't want to carry this around as a burden any longer. Yeah. And I don't want the regret that I wasn't, you know, kind and forgiving through this. Yeah. Because, you know, we all make mistakes, and we would certainly want somebody to treat us like that.
100%. And the valuable thing that I learned from it in going, because I went through, you know, 10 years, I would say, of healing that exact issue around abuse. And the thing that came to me around the forgiveness piece was really fascinating, because I kept hearing, you know, from different people I would work with, you got to get to forgiveness, you got to get to forgiveness. And it just felt like this ladder that I was always trying to climb.
What does that mean? Where do you get to it?
Yeah. I never really get there. Yeah.
Give me the roadmap. Give me the roadmap. Yeah.
And then finally I just let it go. And I was like, okay, I don't know. I hear about what forgiveness is. I'm just going to give it up, and I'm going to see what settles and what comes. And what ended up coming was having a higher perspective of why this thing happened, why it came into my field, and the growth that came from that. And then how I was able to help other people was, you know, that was a huge piece of it. And then being able to look at the other person that was on the other side of that, and to really look at where they were coming from and how their life was. And all of a sudden I had this deep sense of compassion for that other person, and sent a huge wave of healing to that person. Because in order for someone to take that step, they've got to be going through a lot of inconsistencies, I'll just call them, and they require as much healing as what the person who received all that stuff does. And so in the moment that I was able to extend the healing, I felt so much compassion in my heart, and then love opened up, and then all of a sudden it was like from higher up, this feeling washed through me, and all of a sudden
the cleansing of it all.
Totally. Yeah. And then I knew forgiveness, not just conceptually understanding or thinking what forgiveness was. It was literally a wave that came through me that I got to then extend out and share. So it wasn't just about my completion of it, but it was the completion of the whole. And that felt really free. It felt very free.
Well, you know, it's a complicated thing. It's not just like, okay, get over it. Like,
no.
But sometimes it is getting to that point where it is, you just have to get over it. Because sometimes people are so used to living with pain, or living, you know, with what they think and what they've been saying for so many years. Oh my goodness, they do not know how to let go of it. And sometimes it really is about just, you know, get over it and move on.
Yeah. And I would say people, when they get to that point, I think you can understand and unturn every rock you possibly can. And then you get to a point where you're like, okay, now what? And the now what is, you do have to let it go, and you do have to be free from it, because people get stuck in their story and trapped in like the repetition of that story. And what I've come to understand is that every time we repeat the story and all the emotional heaviness and the details of the story, we're literally breathing life into that thing, and it keeps showing up. And then people are like, why do I have such crappy relationships? Why can't I trust people? Why? And it's like, well, that story keeps repeating itself. So at some point you got to either rewrite the story or let the story go altogether.
Yeah.
And let it be something that almost seems like a far off memory, or as if it was someone else's story altogether.
Right. And sometimes the story just it's got legs of its own, doesn't it?
100%.
It gets better each time it's told. So let's talk about, you put your business together about 13 years ago, I think. And what did that look like, and where's your business going today?
There's so much change that's happened. When I first started 13 years ago, I was more on the, aromatherapy, Swedish massage, reflexology, herbology, like all the more physical things. The energy stuff was there always. But because 13 years ago, especially again in Ontario, people were just starting to wake up to these other modalities, So aromatherapy and reflexology was kind of woo-woo. It was a little bit out there,
It was.
And it was. And so that's where I started.
To a point, don't you think? I mean, there's still some people that, I have to tell you before we go any further, I was born in Brantford, Ontario, Canada.
No!
And so we're sisters, and you didn't
That's
even know.
awesome. That's so amazing.
Yeah, so then you decided that more of and I've been in health and fitness and wellness for so many years. And so when you talk about, meditation, and you talk about yoga and all of those things, I've taught all of that for so many years.
Amazing.
And there is something that you need, that's kind of like breathing breath into yourself rather than the story that you shouldn't be even telling any longer. And that's a whole different approach.
Yeah, 100%. And that was a change that the business started to take, was more people were coming in and they'd experience a massage or reflexology and they'd be like, wait a second, that was different. There's something else going on here. And then I would open the door to talk about energy work and energy healing. And then little by little, the business moved over into more energy healing for probably about 7 years, 8 years. And then I'd say over the last 3 to 4 years, it made this huge leap into more of the soul coaching, where I still do a lot of energy work, but I was able to blend a lot of the things that I love. I don't do a lot of body work anymore. I have maybe a handful of clients that still want that.
Sure.
But more of it is soul coaching and advising and spiritual teaching. I run a lot of workshops now and train other people, because I had a lot of other students that were coming and they were like, I love what you do. Can you show me how you do what you do? And I'm like, and so it threw me into creating curriculum, which I really love.
Yeah.
And so, I'm able to integrate all of those pieces. The meditation, I teach yoga when we run retreats. My husband and I do these soul sessions, together. We're running a business that we have our separate thing, but then we also have Soul Awakening, where we do these beautiful sessions and hold healing circles. And it's taken on this whole new look. And I think the coaching opened up a whole new door for me as well, because I was asked to be a part of a coaching movie called Leap, which will be coming out in January.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
Really exciting stuff. So it just keeps evolving. And I just follow it. I just listen, and then I'm like, okay, what's next? And then the next thing shows up.
So I was going to ask you what's next. So I know the movie is coming up, but just kind of, expanding all the things that you're doing in your business. Where can people get in touch with you? Where can they find you?
Yeah, the best website is www.tara, T-A-R-A, Antler, and I always go like this because it's antler.com, and everything's there, Antler. Okay. And the things that I'm focused on now are a lot about the trainings. I have life coaching certification, an advanced healing certification. Then I also have the way I've broken it down recently, because we just went through a whole shift, massive, especially after the baby came. It was like,
I was going to say,
I was like, what do I want to focus on? What's really near and dear to my heart? And what am I willing to kind of let go of? Because they all felt like my babies, like all these
exactly.
bodies, and I was like, I don't know if I want to let them go. But, I shifted things. So now we've got the self-mastery, and then soul mastery, and then business mastery, because I still have a lot of people coming to me for each of those 3 areas. And I was like, okay, let's refine it a little bit, so that if people are coming in with more business, we can do that. Mm-hmm. If they want more of the, higher self expansion, let's go there. And if they want more about the healing part, which is important too.
Absolutely. Well, they come in for one thing, and then they find out all the other things that you're doing, and they end up doing it all.
100%.
It doesn't make any difference what window or door they come through.
Right.
It's
all
package. It's always the whole package.
Yeah.
So if you were going to give, a sentence or a word to to someone, what would that be? Tara, come on.
Ooh, well, I have a couple that just came to mind.
Okay.
One is to not take life so seriously, because it goes by so fast. I've worked with clients in their 90s and they all say the same thing. It goes by like that. And when you get to that end point and you look back, you want to be able to say, you know what, I lived and I was fully present to be able to experience everything fully. And I've experienced the shadow side and walking through pain, and I've experienced still growing and healing, but with a lot more joy. And I would say doing it with a lot more joy, or choosing to be happy and choosing to be in joy. Oh gosh, it's so much easier. It's just so much easier.
It is, and people just really, they hear it all the time. It's what our choices are ours, but sometimes they feel like they don't have that choice because they're too fearful to actually make the choices that they should, or they think they're going to fail at it. So it's fearfulness that comes, into that too. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for having you on the show today, and I just want to remind everybody that they're listening to the WBTVN Spotlight Expert Show. And this WBTM is all about women that really put their own content together by women and for women. And so we thank you for being with us. And until the next time, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.